Welcome, dear viewers, to another deep dive tale on Secrets Behind the Stars, the place where we unravel the quiet storms and soft-spoken shocks behind the polished smiles of Turkey's brightest names. Before we open today's chapter and explore a revelation that sent waves through the industry, make sure you subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, tap that join button to support this growing community, and leave a like if you love immersive, emotionally charged storytelling that dares to go beyond the surface. Every so often, a moment arrives so hushed you could almost miss it, until the echo refuses to fade. A moment when a familiar face, one who usually keeps feelings tucked safely away, lets the curtain slip and allows a heartbeat to be heard by everyone. This week, that moment belonged to Cenk Torun, a figure whose journey from early television heartthrob to seasoned, internationally recognized actor has been marked by poise and a disciplined privacy. He has always let the work speak while keeping the man behind the roles carefully guarded. And yet, during a televised interview that seemed routine at first, the walls he keeps so meticulously arranged quivered, and then parted. In front of cameras, under lights that flatten every expression, Cenk Torun quietly carried a truth out of the shadows. He did not dramatize it. He did not build up to it with grand gestures. He simply said something so intimate that it felt as if years of unspoken feeling had finally found words. He confessed, with a steady, reflective voice, that should he ever choose to marry, there is only one person he can imagine at the end of that aisle, Mahassine Merabet. He did not reach for ambiguity. He did not hide behind jokes. He spoke as a man who had weighed his heart and accepted what it carried. For someone known for balance, for caution, for knowing when to talk and when to hold back, the sentiment landed like a lightning strike on a quiet night. You could hear the intake of breath even from the host, who seemed caught between surprise and a tender kind of awe. Cenk Torun's eyes held the seriousness of someone telling the truth not for a headline, but because the weight of it had become too heavy to carry alone. His tone, calm, contemplative, unmistakably sincere, made clear that this was no publicity maneuver. And then the world reacted. Social media flared. Within minutes, his confession was clipped, captioned, reposted, and analyzed. Old memories returned as if they had been sleeping with one eye open. Fans remembered the spark between Cenk Torun and Mahassine Merabet from years ago, when they first shared the screen and turned make-believe into something that felt undeniably real. Their collaboration marked a time that left an imprint on viewers, an era when their on-set chemistry leapt across living rooms and made millions believe that behind the scenes, a different story might be blooming. Their off-screen connection became a subject that lived in the spaces between confirmed fact and wistful hope. It was spoken about in careful tones, sometimes put aside as rumor, sometimes treated as an open secret. And then life moved them in different directions. There was no dramatic ending, no blaze of scandal, just a quiet parting, a gentle closing of a chapter people thought would never be reopened. But a single sentence can reopen a door people forgot was there. As that interview segment spread, threads of nostalgia twined with fresh curiosity. Screens filled with edits of older scenes, side-by-sides, and soft-focus memories. Comments poured in from Istanbul to Casablanca to Berlin to Dubai. Some wrote that this was the sign they had been waiting for, a harbinger of reconciliation, as though love had simply paused, waiting for the right moment to speak. Others said the confession might not be a plea, but a truth spoken without expectation. A way of honoring a feeling that time did not erase. In the broadcast, Cenk Torun added that there had only ever been one person who held that particular place in his life, and that there was no substitute. Not a bold claim to stir gossip, but a measured acceptance of what his heart knows. You could sense how carefully he chose his words, how much he resisted the gloss of sensationalism. The host, uncharacteristically quiet, let his truth breathe. Dear viewers of Secrets Behind the Stars, how do you feel when someone so well-known lowers the guard and lets the heart be heard? Do you wish more public figures would speak with this kind of clarity? Tell us in the comments, your voice shapes what we cover next. And remember, a like helps bring these long-form stories to more people who crave depth and honesty. As the statement rippled outward, interpretations sparked and multiplied. Some fans convinced themselves that a reunion was not only possible but imminent, spinning timelines and clues from interviews long past. Others, no less romantic, suggested that perhaps this was a dignified acknowledgement rather than a call to action, a way of placing a flower on a memory that still breathes. Inside the entertainment press, whispers gained volume. A few tabloids claimed that those close to Mahassine Merabet didn't see this coming and were startled by the timing. Others murmured that she had known about the interview but preferred to remain silent, neither endorsing nor denying, choosing not to rush toward a microphone or a caption. The silence, as always, said 1,000 contradictory things. Was it a pause to think, a shield to protect something delicate, or a gesture of respect toward emotions that cannot be managed on a schedule? Uncertainty is the oxygen of the entertainment world, and this moment fed the fire. Across Instagram, X, and devoted fan forums, theories bloomed. Screenshots of Cenk Torun's words spread. Pieces of past interviews were stitched into fast-moving narratives. There were messages of joy and disbelief and tender hope, often from people who grew up watching them and felt, in some quiet part of themselves, that their story had never truly ended. "Is this the beginning again?" became the phrase you saw most. Industry observers noted that Cenk Torun has always been deft at striking a balance between visibility and privacy. He has built a life where cameras see only what he lets them, and yet here he was, choosing radical openness about a feeling that, by any measure, is intensely personal. It suggested not impulse, but perhaps a long and private reckoning. Something in him had changed, maybe not in feeling, but in willingness to say that feeling aloud. And while we have your attention, dear friends of Secrets Behind the Stars, which other couple would you like us to revisit or explore next? Drop your ideas below, because your suggestions guide the journeys we take. Tap join if you want to go even deeper with us, and keep this community strong. Soon enough, insider chatter painted the confession not as a sudden spark, but a carefully considered bridge. The story, according to those around him, is that Cenk Torun has been reflective these past months, reevaluating what truly matters when the noise of fame quiets at night. In such private hours, attention and applause begin to feel lighter than the gravity of genuine connection. He has reminded himself, perhaps, that the heart collects its own ledger, one that doesn't answer to headlines or schedules. None of this guarantees a reunion. That is the other truth. Mahassine Merabet has not issued any official response, and those close to her maintain that she fiercely protects her personal life. People who admire her work know she values dignity as much as artistry. She does not allow gossip to steer her choices. She knows the difference between public curiosity and private peace, and she draws that line with care. Still, fans cannot help but hold their breath, because it is rare to witness such unguarded emotion from someone of Cenk Torun's stature, rarer still when the feeling involves a person with whom the public already shares so much history. For now, what we have are words that hang in the air and refuse to disappear. No dramatic gestures. No sudden revelations beyond the one already given. The story continues, not with fireworks, but with a long echo. One that turns people inward and reminds them why these tales capture us. We don't watch only for the glamour, but for the pieces of ourselves reflected back, the first look across a set, the season where work and feeling become entangled, the endings that are not driven by betrayal but by timing, the brave moment when someone says, plainly, that one person still holds the key. As we begin to close today's journey on Secrets Behind the Stars, thank you for staying with us through this unfolding, for listening between the lines, and for honoring the quiet courage it takes to put a feeling into the world. Don't leave without subscribing, sharing your perspective in the comments, and hitting like if this kind of nuanced, long-form narration is what you come here to find. If you want to help us grow, the join button is there to keep the lights bright and the stories bold. We will be here as this chapter turns, watching with empathy, reporting with care, and bringing you more layered stories, more heartfelt disclosures, and more of the content you love. The spotlight may be loud, but the most human truths often arrive in whispers. And sometimes, those whispers come from the people we thought we knew best, like Cenk Torun and the woman he named without hesitation, Mahassine Merabet. Until next time, stay close to the source you trust for real emotion behind the polished image, only here, on Secrets Behind the Stars.